Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, co-hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher, a podcast that celebrates women, their issues, their thoughts, their lives, conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, their courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast. Presented by Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Hey there, it's Mandee Montana. Are you taking great care of your skin? You know, I use great products, I take my vitamins, and I drink plenty of water. But I could be better about applying sunscreen daily and making sure my skin is protected against premature aging. What about you? I've got great news, though. I do have a solution. It's called the Diamond Glow Treatment at Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. I love it. It exfoliates and hydrates your skin at the same time. I know my skin feels so soft and silky after. You have got to try it. If you've never had a facial before, they do offer different options at Hand & Stone, like hydrating and brightening. If you're struggling, though, with dark spots, hyperpigmentation, sun damage, sallow skin, enlarged pores, maybe oily skin, this is the treatment for you. If you want your skin to glow and look and feel amazing, you've got to try the Diamond Glow. Located in Cumberland Shopping Center, schedule your appointment today. Visit handandstonetyler.com. That's handandstonetyler.com. Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I'm Mandee Montana.
And I'm Ashley Fisher, and it is just Mandee and I in the studio this afternoon. We are really excited about today's episode because we've done something a little fun. What did we go do?
We watched the Barbie movie together.
Yeah, we did. Mandee had already seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And there were moments where I could feel her go like she's looking over at me.
I totally was. I couldn't help it.
And I had not seen it, and now I'm really glad that I did. So we're going to talk about the Barbie movie, because I don't know if y'all know this, but a few people have some opinions about this movie.
Oh my gosh. There are lots of opinions, but you know what makes me really happy about that is that conversation is happening around important topics about women, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was really appropriate that we have a conversation about the movie that's creating conversations about empowering women or degrading women or whatever, or men.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some interesting things about men in that movie. And I will tell you guys, I'm just going to put this out there. I actually really love men.
Oh my gosh.
I really love men.
Oh, yes.
I just happen to also really love women.
Yes. And if we've never said that, we say that emphatically. I mean, I'll just be honest. There are many times I'd much rather hang out with my guy friends. You know, I love it. But that's the thing. We each have something so, and this is something, anyway, we each have something so unique to offer that is so equally necessary.
Yes.
So when Mandee and I are talking about how amazing women are, it is not at the expense of men.
Amen.
And.
Yeah. The power of and. We love men and women around here.
We do. So my question is, who wants to go first in talking about what their thoughts were?
I have a lot of thoughts having watched it a second time. So I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts first, since your first viewing. So I would love for you to go first, because I knew things came up for me this go round, but I want to hear like your first opinion, your first response, your first reaction.
So I've been nervous about this, knowing that we were going to go see this movie, because I really, I've seen, of course, all of the girls' nights post of like girls going together and watching the movie, and oh, how nostalgic, and a lot of people saying how much they loved it. And then I don't know if I'd say the mistake, but I read this blog that had a really negative slant on it. And my only regret about it was, I wish I hadn't read that before I saw it. Because going into it, I got the feeling that you really enjoyed it. And I thought, shoot, if I go in there and then I come out and I'm like, it's horrible. It just made me nervous. However, I thought that movie was great.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
I thought it was great.
I heard you laugh so many times.
I did. I laughed. I'm that friend, now you know.
It's okay.
That my laugh will reverberate off the ceiling and back, and I don't care.
So I applauded the first time I watched it.
You did?
Yeah, and I hope that I'm not spoiling this for anyone. So if you haven't seen the movie, you know,
Spoiler
you might want to
alert.
just jump ahead for just a second, or maybe
you
just
see
don't
it.
listen to this. Maybe just come back to this episode after you've had a chance to see it if you don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah.
But America Ferrera's
Oh.
speech, where she talks about how impossible it is to be a woman, I clapped so loudly and emphatically that I'm practically embarrassed myself, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I felt so empowered by what she
And
had to
seen.
say and seen and heard.
Yeah.
And today I was able to watch it the second time and go, and with deep appreciation, because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And that is when I cut my eyes at you at one point, because I wondered if you felt as seen and heard as I did in that moment.
I really did. I had heard rumblings that there was a scene with her that was really powerful. So I felt like at that point in the movie, I think it's maybe coming. And then when it came, I was like, just that.
Yeah.
Just that, just little exhale of like, yeah, like that. She's so right. She's so right. I thought Margot Robbie just did. I loved watching her.
Transform.
Yes, but I loved I sometimes have a hard time watching movies and not thinking about the actress or the actor, thinking about their personal process of the messaging in the movie. And that's what I found myself thinking about with her, because what I felt like I could see in her eyes was at times just a genuine feeling about whatever she was going through.
I felt sincerity.
Sincerity, yes.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It wasn't all acting. There were moments where just her understanding that she was representing parts of womanhood came through, and she was just a mirror of that to the audience.
What did you think about the teenage daughter Sasha's rant at Barbie?
I was like, oh, I'm kind of glad that she said that, because it's kind of what we all sort of, or I say all, it's what I've thought about sometimes with Barbie. Like, oh, she's just perfect, and she's tall, and she has the perfect hair and no cellulite, and, you know, and all of these things. And I'm like, yeah, she's kind of right. Like, you know, Barbie. Too perfect. I liked the duality between, like, sometimes the things that start with the best intentions. So Barbie, maybe with the intention of being this just display of hope for women, that you can do anything, you can be anything. Meanwhile, some caught that, but others saw, I can't be that perfect. I can't live up to that. So that kind of living on both sides, I enjoyed that. Here's my biggest takeaway. I think I was thinking about it on the way here. If anything made me sort of sad about the film, it was that I feel like we as like a society are so poised to look for the hot button issue or the politicized version of something that people are missing out on. Just, did you hear the heart? Did you hear like what they were trying to say? Or did you just focus on the scene where if you pull it out of context, it says men are stupid? But if you watch the whole thing, you realize we're all part of this thing. We all need each other.
Amen.
You know, that's what bothered me. Is on the way here, I thought, man.
You know, I think people do that to get clicks. I've been in the media for, since 2001. And I've seen an evolution of things. I studied journalism in high school and college, and I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about journalists. And I will just say, on that note, study it, do your homework, look into it. It meant well in the beginning, too. Initially, a free press is intended to be the watchdog of democracy. They need each other to keep each other in balance is the point, right? Ideally.
Yeah.
We don't live in an ideal world. We don't live in Barbie land, you know. But having studied that, what I've seen is over history,
things regress and they get better and they regress and they get better. And there's these cycles. And I feel like we're kind of in this cycle right now of where there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions and a lot of access to put it out there. So like bloggers, I think bloggers are awesome. This is not a knock on them.
Right.
But in order for them to get clicks and make money, they are going to put something out there that is a hot button issue to get the clicks. And they're going to put, you know, like sensationalized headlines to get you to click through. I've been on that side of it too, working for a company that encouraged, you know, your headline to be what makes people click through and to make it sound sort of outrageous.
Sensational.
Because that is what makes us click. So I guess I say all of that to say, just think, use your brain.
Yes.
Look at things for yourself. I click through on some of those sometimes too. It's human nature. And also use your own thoughts, your own wisdom.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. And I have a really good friend that I really want to see this movie because I think she would love it and feel seen and heard, but she doesn't want to see it because she read a negative review and she thinks that it's this political whatever. And I'm like,
And see, that
calm
is
down,
what
honey.
I was thinking about that because I thought, my other thought was, if a blog post is keeping you from experiencing, not just experiencing something, but being an informed citizen, you put that on any capacity, any level,
Right.
any whatever. If you read something or you read two some things and that is what has made you draw your conclusion, you are operating in some type of ignorance because we cannot just go off of other people's take and slant because that person could very well have taken a slice of something, brought it out of context, expounded on it. Well, then of course it sounds terrible. Like some of y'all haven't been shopping at Target because you've been reading these blog posts about all this horrible stuff at Target. Go in the store. Go in the store.
I haven't seen any of the horrible things, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't been in Target in a hot second, but that's mainly just because I like the convenience of drive up.
Yeah. Well, and I do too. And I speaking of Target, ran into two friends of mine late last night. We were all mamas, and Target is our happy place. I had my headphones in. I was listening to a podcast, and I just happened to see them. So we were all congregating in the baby food aisle. And we got to talking about just the whole Target thing. And they said, you know what? Until somebody else can have an amazing 2-hour pickup, I'm staying here.
You know, you pick your battles and you pick your ground to stand on.
And that's the thing. And stay true to your convictions. If you have a real conviction about spending your money there or whatever, I'm not saying, just jump over that. What I am saying is, again, if we are adjusting our lives, like I'm not going to go to Target anymore. I go to Target multiple times a week, pull up to do that pickup because it is so convenient. But if we are altering our lives because we read a blog post as opposed to...
It's just how much power are you willing to give to someone else's opinion?
That's the thing,
How much power?
That's the thing.
Because we have personal power. We have our own agency. We have freedom of choice. And most of us have, depending on how old you are listening to this, I feel like our contemporaries are probably listening. You've got some experience. You've got some wisdom. I forget who originally shared this with me, but it's something that's kind of out in the world now. So I'm sorry if I'm not attributing it correctly, but there's this concept of practicing the pause.
Yes. I have a whole blog post about that.
Yeah, it's an important concept. It's important not to be so reactionary to everything. And, I know I'm pulling you in here and getting your immediate reaction off of the Barbie movie, and I've now seen it twice, and I've been thinking about it for like a month, so it's a little bit different. But I felt so empowered by it. Both times that I watched it, I left there feeling confident and beautiful.
Yeah.
And seen and heard and understood in a way that I don't know that I have felt that way from a movie in a long time.
Well, it was refreshing to hear some of the things that they said on a big screen by out of mouths that are somewhat responsible for the reason I think sometimes we feel unseen.
Yes.
Is because it's big Hollywood and everybody's, you know, wanting to live up to whatever that is. And that's not even a real thing. You know, it was refreshing, like, oh, okay, y'all feel it too. You know? Yeah. And not to say that it's not that they're the be all end all. It's just to hear that message come across a big Hollywood forum was refreshing, because it was just some humanity, you know, like just some, I think they could have written that speech and it could have been 10 times longer. She could have just kept on going.
Yeah, she could have. There's a lot there. There's a lot to be explored. And I think that's one of the things that I love about our podcast and the different women that we've had in here is there is a lot to be explored. There's a lot to be celebrated about women. There's a lot to be celebrated about the world in general. Right. Again, this is not to negate men's place in this. Men can celebrate women too, just like women can celebrate men. I just feel like we've been celebrating men in this country for about 200 years. So, and that's my personal opinion. You can agree with me or not. You can be yelling at the speaker right now if you want to, and that's okay. Yeah. Because I'm okay with people having a different opinion than me, and I'm okay with having a conversation with someone who has a different opinion than me. Yeah. That's totally fine.
Well, and you know, when this project got started for me, celebrating women wasn't, let's celebrate women so that we can be louder than men.
Right.
It didn't have anything to do with men.
Right.
It's just women. Like, you know, I could start another podcast or another project to celebrate men. I would love it. There's some fantastic men, and it's just, this was the thing that was on my heart. Maybe somebody else will have celebrating men on their heart. One thing that I dislike about the feminist movement is that it's like, let's boast about us so that we can be, you know, it's like this competition with men. And for me, celebrating women has always been about laying down the lines of competition. It's not about that.
I think feminists get a bad rap for that because so many women were angry. Yeah. Especially in the 60s and 70s. The world was angry. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the context of all the different people that were feeling oppressed and all the things that were happening at that time, I have empathy. Mm-hmm. And there's that word. And I would probably consider myself a feminist. Yeah. And again, I don't hate men. Yeah. I have had so many men champion me in my life that have helped me to grow and be the person that I am. It's not about that. It's about the fact that I don't know that women feel empowered enough sometimes to just speak up when they have something to say. And I don't think men are intentionally preventing that. I really don't. I just think it's this cultural situation that we've evolved into society where, generally speaking, at like an executive table, you are going to predominantly have men there, and the women that are there may not feel empowered enough to speak up because they're so outnumbered. Yeah. And it's not intentional. There's probably a lot of men around that table that really want to know what she thinks. They just also might not ask her. Yeah. I think, and I think too, what the movie made me think on was, Ken, first of all, Ryan Gosling. Oh my gosh, I could just... Can you? Such a cutie. I mean, they could not have chosen a better man to play that role because we do all love him. If they had chosen someone that was not so lovable, that would have been a very different That would have been movie. Very different. Yes, it would have. And it wouldn't have been as poignant, I don't think, because he, I whispered to Mandee at one point, you can even tell, he is cracking up while he's doing this. They had to take, 1 million takes to do this one. Of him singing. Yes, because I'll never hear Matchbox 20's Push in the same way ever again. He's got this grin on his face that that was Ryan. Yeah. He was just but what was interesting about that character is if you notice, Ken starts off just, kind of dumb. Or just kind of innocent and just kind of... He doesn't have a sense of self. He's have a sense of self. Just obsessed with Barbie loving him. And that's the thing. He spiraled so out of control. Why? Because he wanted to be respected, which is one of the main needs of a man. And he wanted to be seen and loved.
And then you just get a lot of Kens together who all have that same need, and weird crap happens.
Well, you know, what came to mind for me both times when I watched this was the whole role reversal concept, right? Like of Barbie Land and the real world, and how he's like, oh, well, they're just opposite of each other, so I'm going to come back and recreate it. It's like if you stop and you think about the context of what if the movie started out where Margot Robbie is Ken and Ken is Margot Robbie, and you have this woman that has zero sense of self, and the only thing she knows how to do is be in love with a man.
We've seen that movie a million times.
Right. Which is why this
That
one
is every movie.
right. And she doesn't have a sense of self. I mean, I think we're getting better at telling stories.
Yeah,
and
we
I think but yeah, I mean, you look back over time, there's a lot of damsels in distress characters where that is just the movie as they're reacting to men. And so I found it really interesting to think through that as I was watching the movie of, is this how women feel? Look at Ken, the way he's emoting, the way he's reacting, the way he's overreacting, maybe like you're saying about the feminist movement. Like there's some...
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know...
But it was compensation.
Exactly. It's overcompensation.
It was just to compensate for, oh, I've been overlooked. I've not been respected. So I'm going to, you know, and then I thought that they did a good job at striking a balance there at the end. And I really, had they not done that, I would have been like,
Same.
But they did that really well. And that is where
I am Knuff.
I'm Knuff. I want that t-shirt.
I know, right? Like the tie-dye sweater, and he's just saying, thank you, Barbie.
Thank you, Barbie. Thank you.
It's just like...
And you almost just like can't take him totally seriously, but again, I go back to, I'm thinking about Ryan, and I'm like, he's just
so adorable.
He's so stinking cute.
Gosh, we could do a whole podcast on Ryan Gosling movies
Lord.
because I'm obsessed. But
He's something else.
Aaron, if you're listening, you know this already, but he's like the one man I would leave my husband for.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
See,
and Ryan Reynolds, there's two, and they're both named Ryan.
Those are your celebrity crushes. So mine has always been, and I think as a person, he's pretty messed up.
Oh?
But Leonardo DiCaprio, man.
He's striking.
I used to have a massive poster of him as Jack Dawson on my wall.
Well, yeah.
With the three Hanson brothers christening his head.
Wow. Okay, so a podcast episode on Ryan Gosling movies and a podcast episode on the posters that we had on our walls when we were teenagers, because I had a whole other set that we could get into.
I mean, my walls, my little pink walls were covered in from what was it? BB magazine, Bebop.
Oh, that was probably one.
Bop.
Teen Beat was another. Tiger Beats.
It was like B something. I'll have to look it up. But you know, they would come and you could like, if you did the staples just right, you get a full blown poster. Oh yeah, that was great stuff.
Oh my gosh, I used to go to the grocery store with my best friend Angie, and we would just pick out our favorite magazines with all of our favorite heartthrobs. Who was your first celebrity crush that you remember? Like, do you know? I totally know mine.
What?
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Oh, yes!
From Home Improvement.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Same.
Little Randy Taylor.
I wrote him a fan letter.
Did you really?
He's the only celebrity.
I did too.
You did? Did you get one back?
No.
I got a letter back.
What?
But you know what? I was really ticked because I was a smart cookie, and I was like,
my parent wrote
you
this.
didn't write that. No, it was a postcard.
Oh,
It was
really?
his handwriting, his photo, all this stuff. But it was like, they just photocopied this. They sent this to everybody. It was a general, like...
But you got one.
I did. I'm sorry you didn't get one.
That's fine. I did, however, this is totally off. And I mean, we'll get back to Barbie in a minute. But Home Improvement is on Disney Plus, and I started watching it the
amazing.
other night.
Yeah.
And I forgot how funny that show was.
It's hysterical.
I got in so much trouble as a kid because it came on at 8 o'clock at night, and my bedtime was 8 o'clock. And I would like quietly turn the TV on and try to hide from my parents and watch Home Improvement. I loved that show.
I ran through that show several times when Disney Plus came out. It was on there. I ran through it, I mean, several times because it was so nostalgic, and it was
love it
so
much.
funny.
It's still so funny.
I love the relationship between Tim and Jill. I
agree.
love it to this day.
They're so funny.
He was filming Last Man Standing.
I think that's the most recent TV show he did, yeah.
So she made a cameo on
Patricia
one of the
Richardson?
episodes. Yes. Actually, almost all of those guys made
Really?
cameos
Oh,
on that show.
I should really watch that show.
It's really cool. And then, of course, they do little like funny nods to the show. It was great. At the end of that episode, actually, like, I feel like the 3 kids came back. So I don't know. It was just
I've got
something.
chills. I got to watch that.
Yeah.
I love that show.
Anyway, we digress. So Barbie.
So Barbie.
Okay,
Barbie.
so just the lighthearted fun part of it.
Oh, effervescent.
It is eye candy because of just the colors, the nostalgia. I mean, like we were 2 seconds into it, and I'm like, oh, I had that Barbie, and that part was really, really cool. And yeah, it was fun. It was lighthearted. It was nice, too, to go to a movie that, like, wasn't overtly sexual, that wasn't, like, cussing all over the place, which, I mean, it's just every now and then it's like, okay, we get it. You're hardcore. Say the F word, like, 100 more times. I loved the one word at the very end.
That they bleeped it,
and
the Mattel logo pops
and the
Mattel,
that cracked me up. I thought that was awesome.
It did me, too. I loved it.
So
I will watch that movie again. That's the other thing. Like, it's just enjoyable.
It is enjoyable, and it just gives you a lot to kind of think on. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can go into it without other voices and just you take it in, and what does it mean to you? What are you getting out of it? Because I did have to work very hard to not, when something happened, to just like block off what I knew an outside voice would say about that moment. Again, if it's taken out of context.
Yeah.
Like, you have to watch the whole movie, beginning and end. You cannot just take a sliver of something and that be the whole thing. So if you're one of those that, like, I don't know, some people just don't care, but like, if you formed a hard and fast opinion on a blog post, I would challenge you to, like, cleanse your palate, cleanse your brain, and just go watch it and see what you think.
Yeah. I watched it the first time, the opening weekend. Mm-hmm. This is not something I've had a reason to talk about till now, but I loved Barbies growing up.
Really?
Girl, I still have a bunch of them. They're
Do
naked.
You really? Of course they are.
They're naked and in a Rubbermaid tub in my mother-in-law's attic. But there's like probably 20 of them in there.
Really?
And a hot dog stand, and I think I have an Allen doll and a Skipper, unless
you
somehow
have an Allen doll? Now I need
do.
to see an Allen doll.
I really think I do.
Okay, Midge.
From the 80s. And I had a Midge, but she wasn't pregnant.
Midge cracked me up. Because here's what it brought back to my memory. I immediately was thrown back to sitting in front of a big box television that you actually had to, like, switch the dial, and it had static whenever you would turn the TV on and all that at my grandparents' house. And seeing this commercial for this pregnant Barbie.
Are you I didn't remember it. You
do.
remember it?
I do.
Wow.
And here's what I remember. I remember my grandmother saying, she doesn't have a ring on her finger. That is not right.
Wow.
So it was like, ho, Barbie.
Wow. It's so interesting. Like, okay, so roughly what year would that have been, Ashley? Like,
oh my gosh.
92?
Yeah, ish, or between
90?
92, 95, somewhere in there maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And, my grandmother, like, that generation.
Of course. Yeah, mine too.
And so it would have been totally fine had Barbie had a ring on her finger. But the way that they did Midge in this movie, it just cracked me up. It was just like, and Will Ferrell, like, oh.
I know. There were so many good actors and actresses and some fun cameos. Like John Cena as a male mermaid was hilarious.
Okay, that needs to be on a poster in somebody's room because
oh my
that's
gosh.
hysterical.
It was so funny.
And then Kate McKinnon.
Oh, Kate McKinnon's amazing.
I love her.
I do too.
I just love
so
her.
So talented.
And I think that was the role for her because I know that she just, like, I'm sure she just ate that up.
Oh, don't you know? Mm-hmm. I watched some like little snippet like reels of interviews with some of the cast, and one of them that I watched recently, apparently they had slumber parties. Like Greta Gerwig, the writer and director of the film, so she really knew what she wanted this film to be about.
Yeah.
She knew she wanted Margot Robbie to play Barbie, and she wrote Ryan Gosling she wrote Ken as Ryan Gosling.
Oh, wow.
And so then they had to ask him, will you please do this? Because we wrote this role for you. And we need you.
Yeah.
And he was willing to do it. But the girls apparently had like a big Barbie sleepover.
How fun.
With all the actresses and stuff to kind of get into,
get into it, yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it's nostalgic, it's sweet. And I think that it's what we're craving as women. Like there's so much division and silliness that happens between women where we are competing with each other for reasons that really are not that important. They just, it's society and it's culture and it's the way things break down and it's jealousy or envy or whatever. And it's not helpful.
Yeah.
And we do it. I mean, I'm guilty. I've done it too. I'm not trying to, but like the more we can step away from that and really celebrate each other, encourage each other, empower each other.
Yeah.
The better all of us will be, including the men.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You know?
There was a line. I wish my phone is always, y'all, just on the brink of death. Like it's charging in there. I need to look at that speech typed out because there was one or two lines in there that
it's saved on my phone.
You do?
I
Okay,
do
can
because I
look through
loved it so much. Somebody posted it. Yeah, let me find it for you real fast.
Because there was a line in there, maybe two, but one and I just can't bring it to mind right now. But I literally sat there, and I'm sure you heard me. I was like,
I did hear you.
Like, oh,
I did.
Like it just hit.
I read this to a man that I really respect. He was my boss at the radio station years ago, and we've stayed friends, but he was very much a mentor to me, a father figure. And I read this speech to him over coffee, actually, one day. And he was like, wow.
Yeah.
And now granted, this is somebody who's championed me, celebrated me, encouraged me, been biggest supporter. He did not know that women feel this way.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an important part of the conversation in general between men and women, because men don't know we feel this way. They don't understand the complicated emotions that we feel about ourselves and our role and them oftentimes. And it's hard for us to voice it.
Yes.
And I feel like this gives us a starting place to have better conversations.
Yes.
And a way to speak up for ourselves through somebody else's voice. But I'm going to slide this to you.
Okay. Well, one thing, of course, just growing up in purity culture that I was like, yes, was you're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women. I was like, say it louder.
That one really struck a chord with me. The whole like having to be thin, but you can't say that you want to be thin. You have to say that you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin thing is something that I really resonated with me because that's been how I felt about my life. And, you know, I mean, and I love my dad. I don't know if he'll ever listen to this episode. I say this with immense love and respect and appreciation for him. But from an early age, he was telling me like, you got some roles there, you know, and he wanted me to be healthy. I know that.
Yeah.
But also for a little girl to hear that from her father is confusing.
Yeah. And it's just very, unfortunately, I think maybe because of the way we are wired and compounded with society and compounded with however we heard our moms talk about their own bodies growing up.
Yes.
That that can do some damage.
I'm playing with Barbies. Yeah. So the negative side of that is I'm seeing this unrealistic doll that, you know, on one hand is empowering me to be the woman that I want to be today. And also, I'm never going to look like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But having that conversation helps.
And I'll
like,
be
you're
honest,
never going to look like this is important to say.
Well, and you know, now I feel like they are being more mindful of having different body shapes. And I tell you what, seeing Margot Robbie with cellulite is like worth your ticket price right there.
Amen. It's like, thank you, Margot. Thank you for showing us that you're human.
You. Yes. Okay. It was this last line that I just was like, ugh. she said, I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. Mm-hmm. I feel like that describes so much of my heart for women, for my friends, for people in my life. You know, and towards the end of the movie, that was a big thing. That whole kind of relationship to the creator, you know, that was really a very, very interesting scene. And Margot says, "You mean I don't have to ask to be human? I just am." Mm-hmm. Those two things tied together, it goes back to kind of like what we talked about with Lindsay the other day, which you guys will hear. You know, Lindsay Steele and I both started off on a career path that we thought we were supposed to be in, and then it hit us. It doesn't make us happy. Mm-hmm. We're good at it, making an impact, but we're left feeling empty. So we switched to something that filled us up and gave us life. And nobody was going to give us the permission to do that. We had to do that. And it's the same thing in life, and as a woman and as a man. We've got to stop tying ourselves into knots, just trying to do what we think other people want us to do. Mm-hmm. They're not us. They're not the ones having to lay our head on the pillow at night and wrestle with, are we okay with us? We are. Mm-hmm. So the things that you're doing in life, like, nobody's going to give you permission, babe.
Amen. These are the reasons I left corporate America.
And listen, I mean...
But that was my calling. I'm not saying corporate America is bad. It's actually really great for a lot of people.
Well,
for me.
And again, and if it... Put that on any level on your workout. Do you really love HIIT workouts? Do you really? Does it bring you joy? Or are you really more of like a kind of fastly paced walk or jam into some music and, you know, like...
dancing your heart out in your room by yourself.
Brings you joy. Yeah. And here's the thing, because there's this gets really tricky because there is a rhetoric going on about, you know, do what makes you happy. That's all that matters. And especially in the South and Christian culture and all of that, then it's not about what makes you happy, it's about what makes God happy. It's not mutually exclusive necessarily. If what makes you happy is
going to watch the Barbie movie with your podcast partner, then
baby, go do it. And God's okay with that. You know, like, I'm just curious how many people are out there in the situations and jobs and roles that they're in because they think that's what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Like, my biggest...
A lot of people.
Like, if I ever write a book, it will be about... If you're wrestling with the question of what am I supposed to do with my life? Who am I? What's my purpose? I'll tell you right where to start. The desires of your heart. Mm-hmm. It's a map. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? It didn't start with you. You were created. I believe you were created. God put those desires in your heart. And when you follow them, a bunch of doors will start opening. But we've got to get out of this mindset of just, oh, well, this is what the Joneses are doing, so I guess that's what I've got to do.
So we had an interesting experience in the Barbie movie today. There's a moment where Barbie's starting to have some challenges in her Barbie land life, and she gets ready to leave her dream house. And as she steps off, she kind of falls, and then the power went out. Mm-hmm.
And screen went black. We're like,
screen went black. And I looked at Ashley. I said, that didn't happen the first time I watched it. This is not like part of the film. So we're sitting there for a minute, and I got ready. I was like, okay, well, President Barbie over here is about to go tell the manager that, like, the movie stopped. Well, there was one man in the theater with us, and he got up. Mm-hmm. And I was like 2 seconds away from, I was digging for my phone to get the flashlight so I didn't fall.
Yeah, because it was pitch dark.
It was pitch dark in there. And this gentleman got up, and he announced to us. Mm-hmm. He said, hey, I'm going to go let the manager know what's going on. They handled it beautifully. They gave us passes to come back for a free film. Mm-hmm. They got it back started again. But I really appreciated it. Well, fast forward, the movie's over. We're leaving. I went to the restroom and I didn't realize the woman that he came to the film with was leaving behind me. And so as I was leaving, she was walking behind. I approached him and I just looked at him and I said, "Thank you for going to get the manager. I really appreciated that." He was like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." He looked unsettled in a positive way. I don't mean it like he was unhappy. He just seemed a little unsettled. And then I overheard him speaking to the lady that he was with as I was leaving. And he was just like, I don't know what to think about all that. Like, that was a lot. That was a lot. And I really appreciated, and I could hear the sincerity and the humility in his voice. I could hear that he probably saw women in a way that he had not before after watching that film. And I think he had a new understanding and level of empathy for having seen it. And I would just say that I would really love it if more men would go see this film. Yeah. Not because I think I don't want them to feel sorry for us. I don't think that we all need to be president and all women on the Supreme Court. I don't think it needs to be all women rule the world. I really don't. I think, like we said earlier, that there's got to be balance.
We balance each other.
We balance each other well, but I think it would be helpful because I think sometimes they want to understand us better, and it's hard for us to communicate because we both care so much for each other that sometimes it's really hard to speak the desires of your heart because you're afraid your heart's going to be hurt because you don't have the right words.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that this movie tells the story in a way that is personal and universal enough that it will at least allow them to have a stronger empathy.
If you think about it, I feel like men, maybe 40 and older, we'll just go with that, are men who typically were raised with very gender role specific situations. Like what's very interesting is, we left separately. You went and got the coffee. Yay, hallelujah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I came, and then I had a conversation on the way here with someone who was commenting on, we were talking about a mutual friend, and they were like, "Oh yeah, they're, great people. Their relationship is so interesting. Like, she just focuses on the house and the kids, and he focuses on the business, and the two do not intertwine, intersect, as far as like she focuses on this and he focuses on that." And I thought, if that isn't right there, more than likely what so many men, I think 40 and above, were raised with. They just saw mom keeps the house, mom may work a job, mom cooks the meals, but mom's so busy that they never knew the layers behind mom's eyes. They never knew what was going on.
Nor did mom want them to know.
Yeah. No, I mean, because
in that particular time period, you didn't talk about these things,
true.
You know?
Yep, it's very true. And so now we live in this place where, because my comment back was, and then you have somebody like me and my husband where it's all just bleh, just all melds together. We approach things as more of a unit. We'll delegate to one another, but Bradley's not strictly work, bills, mow the yard, and I'm not strictly kids, meals, house. We kind of, we share all the things at different times. It gave me a source of empathy because I think that we have generations of men who just never understood the depths and the layers to the women in their life, because why would they? I mean, they were just being, they were being taken care of, had their meals, had their clothes, got sent off to school, and off they went. And because the mom didn't talk about stuff, well, how would they know? Like, they're men. If you don't talk about it, if you don't let them know what's on your mind, they're not going to know. I mean, they're
paying attention to other things, which if you watch this movie, it's not just horses and trucks, but that was really funny.
I'm going to go in the library and get a book about trucks.
It was so funny. It was so funny because it's obviously, that's not real. Men are intelligent and they have a lot of incredible emotions and feelings, and they're wonderful. I love men. But it was really funny to see this like two-dimensional version that likes horses and trucks and wants to rule the world. Well, it was hilarious.
It was hilarious, and it flipped the script. That's what it did, is because so often women are, the damsel in distress, or they just want to go paint their nails and do a face mask. It's the same thing. And I think it's funny that it makes even women uncomfortable when they go see this movie to see men relegated to just liking trucks and horses.
Yeah.
But it's like, baby, honey,
Yeah.
they're making a bigger statement here.
Yeah. But again, it's like for the most part, why would men ever think about it?
Yeah.
They've not been challenged.
No.
There's not a reason to. And I'm not saying that to challenge you. This is not me bowing up.
Uh-uh.
But they've never had a reason to think about it. We think about it because we struggle sometimes to be heard or seen, or feel pressure to be pretty all the time, but not too pretty. Mm-hmm. Don't want to tempt them. Don't want to
skinny, but not too skinny.
Yeah.
And
yeah, all those things. I mean, I think I said it before. I applauded out loud in the theater the first time I saw that, and because I was so moved by it. I was so like, yes, finally someone put words to what I've been feeling all my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just like, it really hit me. And then today it was just like, thank you.
Yeah. It did. It was just an exhale. Mm-hmm. And that's what, I mean, at the end of the day, film, it's okay to take a couple of hours and just think about women. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that we're not thinking about men. Doesn't mean that we don't care about men. It just means for that 2 hours, we're going to go think about this. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Dance battle at the end. Oh my gosh. I mean, I've already said how much I love Ryan Gosling, but oh my gosh. There's also like floating around on YouTube or TikTok or whatever your flavor is. There's a video of him dancing from Star Search Canada.
Stop.
You haven't seen this?
No.
Oh my gosh.
How old was he?
Oh, he was it was pre-Mickey Mouse Club. Oh. He was on Mickey Mouse Club.
I did not.
Oh my.
I didn't realize he was one of them.
Oh my gosh. I just feel like I have so much to share with you.
I think you do.
I have so much to share with you. Okay. He's wearing like hammer pants.
Yes.
And it's him and like 4 girls. And so he's like the featured dancer within this little group. And he's doing all these funny like 80s dance moves. And I mean, it's just classic. And it's, what is the British guy that has the talk show? Is it Graham Norton? Does that sound right? Uh-huh. And it's a really colorful room, and he usually has multiple actors and actresses on his couch.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the clip. And I want to say it must have been when La La Land came out, because I think, she's escaping me, and I love her. What is the actress's name?
Oh, shoot.
Emma
Stone.
Emma Stone, I think, is sitting next to him. Anyway, he's totally embarrassed by this thing. But then fast forward to the Barbie movie, there's this Margot Robbie's like, this is why we hired you. It's this clip. We saw this clip and we were like, it has to be Ryan. Mm. But the dance moves that he does in the movie, there's 2 different sequences. But
it's just, listen,
and he can sing.
If you can just lovely. Like take out the political like mindset on it, because it really and truly, in its purest essence, was a fun film that gave you some things to think about, but it wasn't trying to spread a message of man hating. It wasn't trying to spread a message of men are stupid and this is how they should be. Like, we need to women need to just rule the world and men are dumb. That's not the point. And if anybody writes something that says that was the point, they missed the point.
Yeah.
It was just so fun. It really was.
So last question, because I think my viewpoint may have shifted on this. When I left the first time, I was like, this is a movie for adults. I would not take children.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people ask me that question since watching it. Having watched it a second time and thinking about it, like really thinking about it for the last probably month, I think kids could enjoy it as kids, like tweens. Yes. Tweens and up, I think, could enjoy it without the political context.
Yeah.
They might ask you some questions about some big words and you might not necessarily know the answer.
Yeah, like patriarchy.
Yeah, they might ask you about patriarchy. Also, that's probably a conversation that we could have.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a thing. Yeah. We do exist in it and it can be better.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But if we don't talk about it, is it going to get better?
No, that's the thing. That's the thing.
That's the thing. So I had told a friend, like, I don't think you should take your girls. And now I'm like, after having watched it again and thinking about it, like, how would a 10 or a 12-year-old girl watch this?
I tell you what would be the coolest thing is to do like a part 2 and take 4 or 5
Young
tweens,
women.
4 or 5 younger women. I would really be curious to see what they thought. I wouldn't take my 4-year-old daughter only because she's not a good moviegoer. She only made it through like 25 minutes of Little Mermaid. And she wouldn't, it's just, she's not even really, she's just barely, she has like a Barbie and she's kind of, But my 10-year-old, like if I had a 10-year-old little girl and above, I would be really interested. I think it's a great chance for just some conversation. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. I just think like, let them see it and see what their thoughts are.
Yeah,
see if they resonate with America's speech at all.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you wouldn't think a 10-year-old would, and I guarantee you they will.
They probably
There are
would.
parts of that speech that will resonate with them.
They might just like Weird Barbie, and that's okay too.
Weird Barbie is amazing, y'all.
Weird Barbie is amazing.
Listen, there are things to go that are worth the ticket price.
Especially apparently at Grand Slam in Tyler, where it's like $5.25 before noon.
Y'all,
So
matinee is the way to go. Like, I thought we was in olden times. We got out of there for under $15.
yeah, it was pretty amazing. Just saying.
Just saying.
Thank you for having this conversation with me, and thank you for going to see it with me. I'm so glad you liked it, because I did. I felt your fear a little bit going in, and I was like, oh, I so want her to like this, but I also don't want to put pressure on her to like this. I want her to have her own experience, but I also don't want her to be disappointed.
No, I just thought it was great. My only regret is that I didn't go like opening weekend, because film is, I think, so much better when you're in a room packed full of people who just either hate it or love it. I just think that adds to the experience. But I really enjoyed it. I really did. So thanks, friend.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. The Celebrating Women podcast is created and hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.